Skyline Vista flyer. Please enjoy. Thank you, Skyline Vista. All right, we are ready. All right. The time is now 5:03, and we are going to get started this regular meeting of the board. Veronica, can you please call roll?
Mr. Chancho. Mr. Davidek.
Here.
Ms. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Math.
Here.
Mr. McCoy.
Present. All right, moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by students from Harris Park Elementary and Flynn. Please come on down. We got a few coming.
They had class in here.
Stay right there. We got flag pins for you. Thank you.
See you guys.
He might forget.
All righty, we're going to move on to agenda approval. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education approve the proposed agenda for the regular meeting dated December 10th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any comments? Veronica, please pull the board.
Mr. Chancho?
Yes.
Mr. Davidek?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Math?
Aye.
Mr. McCoy?
Aye. Moving on to item number 3.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education approve the regular board meeting minutes dated November 19th, 2019.
Second?
We have a motion and second. Any comments? With none, Veronica, please pull the board.
Mr. Chancho?
Yes.
Mr. Davidek?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Math?
Aye.
Mr. McCoy?
Aye. Moving on to recognitions, we have item 4.1, the Fred Award with Mr. Steve Saunders and Mr. Mike Lynch.
Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Swanson, it's a good night to be from Harris Park, as you're going to find out why. As always, Mike Lynch delivers the details, and he's here to tell us about this quarter's Fred Award winners. Mike?
Thank you, Steve. Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Swanson, as Steve let the secret out, it's true, Harris Park has a clean sweep, and how fitting, too, that Nancy's here to do her board presentation. So, Nancy, you're welcome to come down and stand proudly with these winners. Could I have the nominee? The first nominee is Meredith Borden, who's a psychologist at Harris Park, and she nominated one of our winners, Lori Bodie, who's the culinary manager, and if you guys could come on down. There, but you can read whatever you wrote.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. So, Lori is an exceptional human who continuously prioritizes the needs of our students. As a previous graduate of Westminster Public Schools and Harris Park alumna, the mother of a Harris Park student and a member of our community, Lori truly understands the needs of our students. She makes a point to learn every child's individual story and find purposeful ways to help them feel included while at school. She has provided our students who have experienced trauma with stuffed animals and fidgets to help them feel calm in the cafeteria, which is often an overwhelming environment for them. She notices when a child appears hungry, sad, or overwhelmed, and brings them to my attention so we can provide supports to meet their needs. She immediately notices when a child is not at lunch and ensures that these children don't miss eating due to a trip to the clinic or the office. Once, when a new student from Russia was not eating at school, Lori came back at the end of the day to use Google Translate and speak with that parent to ensure that she had food that the student liked to make sure she didn't go hungry. Lori notices important details that others may overlook, and our students benefit significantly as a result. She is truly a unique and wonderful person, and the Harris Park and Westminster community are lucky to have her as a member of our family.
So on behalf of the board and the district, here's your copy of the Fred Factor. Here's your trophy from Colorado STEM. And then here's your pin. Wear it every day for the rest of your life.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you.
Okay, could the nominator, Jeremiah Schlosser, come down for our second winner, and that is Joel Nunez, custodian at Harris Park.
Good to see you. I wanted to recognize Joel for his hard work and professionalism at Harris Park. Joel is currently taking classes during the day at Front Range Community College, and then comes to Harris Park after class to begin his evening custodial shift after a full day at college. He's working towards becoming an ASE certified mechanic. And Joel is always on time. Nothing interrupts his routine unless someone needs some extra support. And no matter what you ask him over the radio, you hear his trademark okey doke, no matter what it is. And that's his reply. And he helps take care of our extra concerns. Joel occasionally stops by the art room to give stickers to the cleanest table before they're dismissed from the last class of the day. He also helped the pass coordinator this year set up their technology and assist parents in the class with their needs on top of his other duties that he's completing. Lastly, Joel is one of the most responsible 21-year-olds I've ever met. It's impressive how he balances working full-time and going to school full-time and finding success in both. I just want to thank you, Joel, for all of your hard work and everything you do for us at Harris Park.
Congratulations, well deserved. What's the whisper?
Also a graduate of Westminster High School.
Yes, class of 2016.
Makes him amazing. So Joel, here's your trophy, here's your Fred book,
Thank you.
and here's your pin. Wear it every day, and we're very proud of you. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Way to go.
All
Keep
right.
it up, bud.
All right,
Keep it
thanks.
up. Your time. Keep it up. Thank you. Pictures.
Lori, I believe you're a graduate of Westy as well? That's right. I knew that.
No ram, that's good.
And now help you stay. Joel, you come out first. Okay, Joel, you go first. You can stay in there. Okay. Nancy, you want to stay in there?
Board, before we move on to the next recognition, I want you all to be aware that the students in the horticulture program have made us these beautiful decorations for our holidays, and I've not been told, but assume that we should pull these down because no one can see our pretty faces, so maybe that was the plan. All right, we're going to move forward to 4.2, Governor's Distinguished Improvement Award. Mr. Steve Saunders.
It's me again. A busy, busy night. Good night. So, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Swanson, we've got a picture to show you. On November 18th, principals Brenda Martin and Zach White, there you see it, joined Superintendent Pam Swanson at a very special awards ceremony in the old Supreme Court chambers at the Colorado State Capitol. Skyline Vista, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail about each of the two different awards they received. And Justin and Zach, if you can make your way down here. On that same date, Skyline Vista received the Centers of Excellence Award, which is given to schools with high rates of growth among schools with a high at-risk population. Principal Zach White and Assistant Principal Justin Adcock, as I just said, are here to represent their school and their amazing staff as well as students. In fact, only 19 schools in the entire state received the award. The award program was established in 2009 by the Education Accountability Act of 2009. And in fact, you may recall that Westminster Academy for International Studies won this award in 2017. And for those of you with really, really long memories, back in 2009, Skyline Vista received the award then as well. I don't even know if you knew that. That preceded you. Yes, so as you said, as you saw, they've got the logos there, and we're going to take pictures with the boards. They've already been embedded on our school websites, and depending on what Don Chancho and James Duffy come up with, we may plaster the entire building with them, not to be determined. So guys, stick around there and we'll get pictures with the board. Our second award winners tonight to be recognized right there is Colorado STEM Academy. And joining us tonight, if you guys can make your way down here, our principal Brenda Martin and assistant principal Lindsay Lohman. They're here tonight to represent their school, their staff, and of course their wonderful students as well. Colorado STEM Academy was given the Governor's Distinguished Improvement Award, which is awarded to schools that show exceptional student growth on statewide test results. The school exceeded expectations on the indicator related to longitudinal academic growth and met or exceeded expectations on the indicator related to closing academic growth gaps. As Dr. Swanson had noted earlier, this is an impressive award for any school, but what is even more striking is to show that kind of growth in what is already a high-achieving school. For those of you with longer memories, in 2014, Sunset Ridge Elementary received the award, and then last year, what was then Metz won the award along with the Colorado STEM Academy, so they now are two consecutive award-winning years for them. So congratulations to you guys, and now it's picture time.
Mr. White, Mr. White, do you have somebody up there with you tonight? Your daughter?
And my staff, yeah, a couple staff.
Staff? And your daughter has a name?
And my PTO president.
And what is your daughter's name?
Haley.
Haley. Welcome, Haley.
Okay, let's do everybody, and then we'll do
Miss Lohman, who do you have up there?
I have my two little ones.
What about the young man?
And my father.
You might need to bunch just a little bit. That's good.
No, right in front of him. Try to Ryan.
Oh, no, you've got to hold that up.
Okay, let's do Skyline Vista first now, just.
Yeah, Ken, why don't you sip into that? There we go. A little bit more balance on there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you guys.
All right, we are going to move on to item 5, which is the superintendent report with Dr. Pamela Swanson.
Well, good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and happy holidays to everyone who's here or who is live streaming tonight. It's hard to believe that Christmas Eve is 2 weeks from us. And I heard everybody gasp. I probably just elevated everyone's stress level, including myself, by saying that. It's a busy time of year. And we have many, many events going on. And to celebrate the season, I have to tell you, the district got off to a great start last weekend. I'm hearing all kinds of positive remarks from people and notes that folks have received with the Westminster High School Winter Spectacular. You see pictures there. So much work goes into putting the event together, and I want to congratulate everyone of our talented students and staff who performed this year. We had choirs, orchestras, mariachi, and pianists. Justin Davis and the folks at the Creative Arts Pipeline say they are also hearing rave reviews. And I also love that we hosted a student matinee during the week. In all, about 650 Level 5 students attended the matinee, and many of them are just now getting into their performing arts academic careers, and this show gave them a chance to see what hard work can accomplish. And no doubt many of them are now looking forward to the day they too can perform on the big stage at Westminster High School. And I want to give a special shout out to our transportation department because they juggled buses and schedules and everything they needed to get the kids to the Joanna Ramsey Theater. Special indeed. And another special day yesterday at Skyline Vista as we broke ground on our new school to open in the fall of 2021. And for those who haven't been following the process closely, the new school will be built next to the existing Skyline, and once students are in the new building, the old one will be taken down. So yesterday was all about giving. Our community was so generous in passing the 2018 mill levy override that this was our chance to give back to the community. In addition to hot chocolate and the cutest cookies, they look like little red schoolhouses. I saw those floating by. For everyone, our students also received a book and a holiday gift. And so I want to publicly thank the Book Trust and Reading Partners and A Precious Child for their generosity to our school and our kids. And by the way, there will be a community meeting next Monday for neighbors who live nearby to stop by the school and get a construction update and have their questions answered. The meeting begins at 3:15. I think it's in combination, Zach, with a PTO meeting maybe? Okay. And Don Chancho and others will be there. So I have some exciting news to share with you. Not every district tests all 8th grade students on PSAT, but we do. And in fact, if we have level 7 kids ready for that, we test them too. But we just got our news back about our 8th grade PSAT testing. And it's not required, but we do think it's a good way to prepare our students for future testing at the high school level. And all of our students who participated this year did so. I think they did it all at their home schools, right, Mike? Am I right on that? Yeah. This year. We tried it one time here at the high school, but then that got a little crazy. So everybody did it in their own environments. But here's what I want you to know. Both the Westminster Academy for International Studies and Colorado STEM Academy, they outperform the national average. And so I want to congratulate those schools because that is a big I'm just full of good news tonight. Here's another one. This won't be public in terms of state results and comparability to how we matched up with the state until January, but we received our preliminary high school graduation and dropout rates, and they provided another good story. We won't, like I said, have those other statewide comparisons until next month, but I can tell you how we did. Last year, the four-year graduation rate at Westminster High School was 79.1%, and that was up from previous years. But this past year, it's 81.9, so an 82% four-year graduation rate. Congratulations, Westminster High School. That's awesome. And Hidden Lake, our alternative high school, also increased their graduation rate by 3%. This is the four-year again. And as for dropout rates, Hidden Lake, their dropout rates declined, which is a good thing, by 3%. And Westminster High School also declined from 2% dropout rate to 1.6. So those are excellent, excellent numbers. And congratulations to both Tiffany Kiewit and James Stewart for their hard work. And I think that deserves a round of applause. So we often talk about the day after graduation being the most important day of a student's life. And so the City of Westminster, one of our partners, is helping us prepare our students while at the same time hopefully benefiting the city as a whole. And so tonight we have a partner. Greg, there you are on the Jumbotron. Tonight, come on down, Greg. Greg Moss is the Innovation Director for the City of Westminster, and he's here to talk about a special collaboration project we've been plotting between the city and the district, and at a high level. And if his face and name sound familiar, it's because, of course, he spent many, many years in a lot of people's living rooms on 9 News as an anchor and business reporter before moving to the Metro North Chamber of Commerce as their president and CEO. And now we're tickled pink he's in the City of Westminster. So, Greg, help me out.
Dr. Swanson, thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, whoever the heck selected that picture, I would like to thank you, Mr. Saunders. It's a very morose-looking, sad picture, and I'm not here to be that way. No, it's an honor to be here in front of you today. And as Dr. Swanson was pointing out, we have a long-standing, strong partnership with this district. We are looking at launching and stepping into a partnership that we are calling, at this point anyway, Westminster's Future, essentially establishing a child savings account for every kindergartner within the city of Westminster at the time of enrollment in kindergarten. Now, you may say, well, that is a very ambitious goal, and it is. Studies that you have received, I think, in some of the research that went out in your packets earlier, will show you that these programs, which have been now started in about a half dozen school districts around the country and cities and municipalities that have embraced this, that if a child is able to, or a family able to save $495 by the time that student graduates high school, with a child savings account in place at the time of kindergarten, they have a 3 times higher likelihood of graduating high school and a 4 times likelihood greater of graduating college and moving on to a certificate program. Now, $495, for those of you who know how expensive college is, will not go very far, but that's not the point. The point of these savings accounts is actually engaging the community as a whole and caring about the student and the family. And so that's really the secret sauce to all of this. As we as a city looked at how we might be able to embrace the success of students at a very early age and follow them along in partnership with you, we felt that this offered the greatest opportunity. Other cities that have launched this successfully include Boston, San Francisco, St. Paul, Minnesota just launched one. Boston, in fact, has now expanded a pilot program for 3 years into all of their schools. About a half dozen other schools are looking, or cities are looking at launching this over the next 2 years. We would be the first in Colorado to do so in partnership with you. It is an ambitious program. It will take a lot of work and partnership. This is not a one-off kind of thing. So when you're looking at a cohort every year, following them for 12 years, you know you're going to have to make a significant investment. Well, the city is willing to step up and make an investment as well. In partnership, we believe, to make it sustainable with lots of business partnerships in this district and in this area. The why is the positive impact on families, the community, obviously the future of our students. The how, we would like to begin planning of this in 2020. It'll take a full year to plan. It'll take a full year to figure out what's best for this community and how we want to unfold it. And it will take a lot of input from you and from our council and from members of the community, with a target date of starting this program in early 2021 in the winter term or in the fall of 2021. This is essentially just the high-level overview of it. On behalf of our city council and our city manager, Don Tripp, we want to just tell you how excited we are to begin the process of unfolding this in partnership with you. How it looks and how it will serve this community is really up to all of us, and we look forward to engaging that process very soon. I'm also excited to tell you that this is just one of several projects that are unfolding between the City of Westminster and Westminster Public Schools. And I want to thank publicly Sandy Steiner for unleashing or unfolding a project-based learning project with our Parks and Rec Department, which in our Public Works unit, which I will tell you we finalized the details today. We embrace water conservation, and you're going to hear a lot more about that in the City of Westminster. We're going to take some of your students and help us figure this out. We'll be digging up the sod in front of City Hall. And please don't tell anyone. We're going to turn this into a xeriscape project to show the community what it looks like. We're going to engage your students in the design and the unfolding of how that will look. This is the real deal. So we're going to look forward to having them help us solve our problem there. And we're also looking at engaging a group of students, probably 90 plus, and helping us with some of our homeless challenges and some homeless programs in the Irving Street area, specifically around the park. So the park is due for a makeover, and we are looking at your students to help us design that park. All of these projects will be presented to our city council, and we hope in the late April, early May timeframe. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions, Dr. Swanson, if you have any that you want me to dive into, but just tonight is really a thank you and a show of gratitude and excitement as we get underway in this program.
We're excited, and we're not afraid of hard work.
It's going to be a lot of hard work.
It's going to be a lot of heavy lifting, but we've
will
done
be
that
fun.
in a lot of ways. So
I don't have any questions, board. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly a win for our kids and our schools and our community and our neighborhoods. So thank you very much.
I saw Joe and Max with shovels while we moved dirt over at Skyline. I mean, sign those two up. They're ready.
Okay, we can do that.
But Greg, we've always said that, our community, it encumbers everything. It's not just the city doing what they do. It requires our schools, it requires our fire, police, everybody to work together to make our community work. So I think this is great.
We do too.
I agree. It's wonderful. I'm excited that these programs are happening and looking forward to being involved.
Thank you. Well, thanks for your support.
yeah,
Thank you, Sandy.
Craig.
Thank you, Dr. Swanson.
And finally, I just want to thank the board and members of our staff for supporting me last Friday in Colorado Springs when I had the honor as Colorado Superintendent of the Year to speak at the awards luncheon at the Colorado Association of School Boards. It gave me a chance to speak very frankly about the need for equity in funding and the need to re-examine our accountability system and how we measure and support our schools. And you can find my comments, I know Steve posted them, I believe, in their entirety on the WPS webpage. I've had a lot of comments about those, especially across all social media platforms, positive ones, I might add. And board, I also have something here for you. You may have received it in your home, but even today, I got a card from some local realtors who cut pieces of this out, and sent me a nice card about how we're communicating with our community. So I want to thank the communications team. They do a bang-up job. They are an award-winning team, and sometimes they sneak awards away from me, and I don't even get to bring them here. But I want to pass these out. This was our fall mailer that went out. And it went out in late November, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Swanson. Board, any questions or comments for Dr. Swanson? With none, thank you. Let's move on to Board of Education discussion. And if I might just start us out, knowing that we're at CASB, which is the Colorado Association of School Boards, for a long conference. And I know we attended many sessions, and if I could just ask if you could report on something that you took away from there that you thought was important and things that we may want to consider in our district or if you were networking and rubbed some elbows with individuals and trying to move some things forward with the state legislature, let's focus there for our first part, and then we'll go back individually. So, Christine, since you were the rookie down there.
You went to everything.
I did. I went to everything, and by the end, I couldn't process anymore. So I'm still going through notes and reviewing everything. But it was such an honor to be there and to meet with the leadership team and just kind of network a little bit. And I think the thing I took away, multiple things. The battle is the state, and that's a battle I'm ready to fight and get in there with. So that has to be addressed. And that I'm not the expert, that we have our experts, we're going to use our experts, and that was just a little load off my shoulders because I got elected. I thought, oh my gosh, I have to start learning and reading and doing, and yes, I do, but I have support and I have our experts here, and I'm very excited to work with all of them.
Well, first I want to say I was it was amazing just to be there with Pamela and to listen to your speech at CASB when you got your award for Superintendent of the Year. You guys, this is an amazing woman right here. And all I heard from a lot of other superintendents is that we have a really good superintendent who's really involved, with our district, but also with what's going on in the state and CD. She's very involved, and I really appreciate that she takes that on. She doesn't have to, but she does, and she takes the lead, and I appreciate that. What did I take away from CASB? My last one that I attended was with a couple of the CDE and with some representatives, was with the governor's council, and listened to some of the people there, and I text Pamela, and I just really confused, so I kind of had to play a little bit nice, and I walked up, and one of the people came up and asked me something, and I said, well, we're Westminster Public Schools, and Pamela is the Superintendent of the Year, and we've been doing CBS for years, and we're one of the largest schools that do it. And she looked at me and wondered why we're not on the Governor's Council. So we have now made the connection, and we're pushing for that, because I think we should be part of that, because we are what they're trying to achieve. We've already done it. So let's make us a model, and let's move forward with it. So let's see what comes from that.
Ken?
I would just go back to our one-day retreat and just say it was exceptional. I thought Matt Duran, who came down and spoke for a couple hours prior to the lunch, was wonderful and gave some great insight. And then I think our afternoon exercise too was interesting and a learning experience, and taught us all a little bit about why we act like we do and why we are who we are. So I thought the retreat was very well done.
For me, the best part of CASB is always networking with board members from around the state. Some of the problems we share and some of the problems we don't share, but it's nice to know you're not in things alone. One final comment, excuse my voice. Dr. Swanson, as always, is very modest about what she did, but to be frank, she tore it up in her speech. And she tore it up so much, one of the state board members got up and walked out. So you're doing a good job when you make somebody that uncomfortable.
Counted as a victory.
So I just wanted everyone in the room to know that she not only represented the district well, but she represented, I think, every school board in the state very, very well in her speech, and you do well to check it out online.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that there were 50 tables in the room, probably full, and two of the tables were not pleased with this, with your remarks, and the other 48 were very much ready to go to war.
Just two takeaways. So one of the sessions that I attended, I always every year go to the accountability session, just because it's fun and it always is changing. So trying to keep up.
Smiling.
But during this time, this was the first time they tried to make it interactive, and in doing so, I had the opportunity to be with State Board Educational Rep Rankin. And when she turned around and her and I were together on the same group, it was a good conversation. And one of the things that they asked us, how do we as a district, how are we proactive with accountability? And I said, well, before we even get there, I go, how can we get the test scores sooner? I go, you want us to be proactive? I go, but we don't get them until after the semester's already started. And everyone kind of got a little quiet in that group. And I said, and this might not be on you all. There might be processes behind the scenes that we're not aware of. But this is something we need to address. I go, how do you get this to us at the beginning of summer so that we can dissect the data and so that we can be prepared as educators moving forward? They did not have an answer for that. The other thing I did talk about that I brought up has to do with CBS and how we are unique and what we're trying to do with our system. And if there's an opportunity, which I believe there is, and I believe we're exploring this with CDE, but looking at maybe a pilot program where we are with them in putting together a new accountability system that works for school districts who are engaged in innovation and trying to do new things in education. So they're only 7 years late to the table for that conversation, but the conversation is starting, and so that's something I think all of us could be excited. But the one thing I did notice within that room, and it's been the same way ever since, every time I go down for that session, it's the same school districts in there. And what I mean by that, when you look at the same school districts, I mean it's districts that are dealing with students who come from low socioeconomic statuses or rural communities. And the one thing we ask every time in there is, when we look at our school districts and all of us in that room, all of our participation rates were above 95%. And, and that was a question we had, was why do we get nailed for that when other districts will sit there and pull their kids out, such as Boulder Valley or Cherry Creek, and they didn't have an answer for that one. But again, we're asking those tough questions, and I will say every single person sitting here at the table, we ask those questions, and we're pretty thoughtful in that.
Mr. President, if I could just chime in. December 19th, Jenny, isn't that correct? December 19th is when we're sending in a grant application to pilot a competency-based accreditation model. And Brush, Colorado, a rural district, is also joining us in that grant.
The only thing I would add, just as a board member to CASB, that this was the first time we had our new executive director, Sherry Wrench, and I will tell you the energy was a little different, which I think was very positive energy. All 178 school districts are now CASB members, which is something that was exciting. But there was a lot of good energy in the air from all the school districts who were in attendance, and it's not always been that way. So that was something exciting that we took away. But they did tell us, CASB, that as school districts we need to be aware that this legislative session is going to be, in the words they use, nasty. There's a lot of people up for re-election, and if it reflects anything that's happening at the national level, we understand that this one is going to be some fights down at the Capitol, and we'll need to make sure that our district is championing and leading the way. So with that, I did want to open it up to any other items that the board may want to discuss. I know that was a focus of ours. Anything else? With nothing else, let's move on to audience comments. Veronica?
We don't have any comments today.
No comments. All right, moving on to education reports. We have Harris Park Elementary with Dr. Oliver Grinham.
Dr. Oliver Grinham is in Mapleton tonight because his
What?
wife is, yeah, there's a good reason. His wife is accepting and being recognized an award for School Nurse of the Year. Get me?
All right, well, we will take Jenny Gatto.
We
to
have
introduce
almost Dr.
Harris
Gatto
Park.
here with us. Yeah.
All right. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent of the Year, Swanson. Tonight, we'll hear from the fifth set of schools regarding their achievement results, improvement efforts, and goal commitments for the 2019-20 school year. In preparation for tonight's presentation, each school has provided an executive summary and school data that speaks to the following: student and staff demographics, school performance framework data, student achievement, and stakeholder perception data. First, we will hear from Harris Park Elementary School, which is led by Principal Nancy Ritchie. Principal Ritchie is in her fifth year as principal at Harris Park. Tonight, she will share the latest information about her school's progress, along with many of the student and parent engagement efforts that are underway at Harris Park Elementary School. Principal Ritchie.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Swanson. Thank you for the opportunity to share a piece of Harris Park's story. It is an honor and a privilege to serve the families, students, community, and staff of Harris Park. Our team is altruistic, dedicated, determined, passionate, and very kind. Some of our staff are here today, You met a few of them earlier, but it's a very busy time of year, so they're also very busy doing other things at the moment. Harris Park is a neighborhood school, and there are many socio and economic factors impacting our families. And therefore, as a school, we do all that we can to enhance learning and promote well-being. Our ultimate goal is to support and development of good humans who positively contribute to the people and the world around them. We have very purposefully selected and welcomed augmenting programs that provide a focus on building community, developing teamwork, growing social emotional skills, and increasing perseverance and tenacity. The Leader in Me is a program based on Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's a unifying program for students, staff, and families, with a common goal to purposely prepare students with the necessary skills for college, career, and life. We are in our 4th year of implementation of the Leader in Me, and this year a group of parents are just starting a group of classes on the 7 habits for highly effective families. Celebrate the Beat is another program that we've welcomed. It's a high-quality in-school dance program for all of our intermediate students, and it improves their physical health and well-being. This program inspires students to believe in themselves and establish a standard of excellence that positively impacts all aspects of their schooling. As a result of Celebrate the Beat, our overall school attendance has increased, and Celebrate the Beat inspires unique leadership. Girls on the Run is a program that offers transformational physical activity and positive youth development for girls in our intermediate grades. They learn life skills through dynamic, interactive, and empowering lessons, as well as running games. And the program culminates with the girls being physically and emotionally prepared to compete in a 5K event. We also have programs that provide additional personalized support and instruction. We have Reading Partners and Scholars Unlimited. Both of these programs have indicated academic growth at a higher percentage rate of accomplishment of middle-of-year goals than our school as a whole. Reading Partners is a program that currently serves 52 of our K-4 students with 2 45-minute individual one-on-one private reading sessions per week through the tremendous efforts of 55 volunteers for the program, one of whom is an esteemed retired Westminster Public School teacher, Don Palermo. He was also nominated as our school's Tutor of the Year. And in there, you can see a little picture of that little cutie patootie on the bottom left. He was actually selected out of all of the Reading Partner schools to be the junior MC at their largest event that they host in a year for fundraising and also their awards banquet. Last year, our 4th grade age students who participated in Reading Partners increased their CMAS scores an average of 28 points in literacy from 3rd grade and 15 points in math from 3rd grade, where our overall school had a 6.5 and a 0.1 increase. And Scholars Unlimited is through a 21st Century grant. They provide 50 of our students 2.5 hours of learning and extension activities after school, and also serves our students for 6 weeks of the summer, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. And this last summer, the students read and did a bunch of culminating and day-to-day activities around the book, The Cardboard Kingdom, which was super fun. We do a lot to partner with our families in our community. It's something we're very proud of. This year, our PASS program, we hosted the PASS program, thanks to a lot of district support, and graduated 38 parents. Our surveys, which we had an 82% participation rate, had the highest percentage of agreement for any year to date from our parents. We host 4 family event nights by Title I, and we have student-led conferences and celebrations where we have between 80 and 90% participation. We're very close with the residents of San Marino. They are our extended family. We trick or treat with them. We write cards back and forth. We do holiday gifts with them, sing-alongs, and a sock hop. We also outreach and introduce ourselves to our neighbors. And we bring them gifts and contact information. And they are part of our PTA, participate in our helicopter landings and things of that sort, and regularly reach out if they have celebrations or concerns. We also work with foster grandparents and host students from Regis, CU, CSU, Metro, and UNC. As a school, our overall school performance was a 48.6, which is up 2.8 from 2018, where we had a 45.8, and you can see the previous 2 years on there as well. And this is the state report of Harris Park's academic growth in in English language arts, and I'd like you to notice the highlighted column. Very proud of that work in English language arts, and in every category we exceeded the state's growth of 50, nearly every category. And of particular celebration were our students who are culturally and linguistically diverse, earning a growth of 63. This chart shows our mean scale scores in each content area from 2019, and the row below that shows our 2019 growth, and our 2018 growth is in parentheses. We had a pretty significant growth in English language arts, and our growth did drop in math. The two green rows on the bottom are our 2020 goals for growth and our mean scale scores. On this table, you can see the mean scale scores over 3 years for both English language arts and math. You can see in the English language arts, we dropped just a teeny bit and then increased in 2019, quite a number of points. And in math, although our growth was not very strong last year, we did continue to improve our mean scale score. All students at Harris Park, preschool through intermediate, participate in writing postgraduate goals. You guys have a packet in front of you. And in those packets, the papers on the very top are their most current goals, and the very bottom are their most long-lasting, long-term goals. On the picture up on the slide, you can see that our preschool's format is shown on the left there. And this particular little one, it's just super cute. She wanted to be a shimmer and shine when she grows up. And I don't know what that is, but we encourage it.
And I know what it is. It's a whole show about it. Yeah.
Yes. We'll just find the ways she can shimmer and shine in her whole life. On the right is the format that we use for our intermediate students, and those are for students level 2 and above. Our ultimate goal in this activity is to expand students' horizons, ground students in who they are, and connect them in a personal and meaningful way to their learning. And these are overarching long-term goals, and students write how they are going to accomplish their goals. Additionally, students identify characteristics for which they would like to be known and how they will develop those characteristics while at Harris Park. These goals are referred to throughout the year, and on the top, the little blue papers, those are the parent support statements of how they're going to support their children as they accomplish their goals. This year we did that during student-parent conferences. It was really sweet. And then we attach the pictures for each student as well. We keep these every year. I keep them every year. And when students culminate at the end of 5th grade, they get all of these wrapped up into one diploma with a little paper that says, "Dream big, your future's unwritten." So it's a nice little memento that they get to take with them. Writing long-term goals helps connect students to their current learning, and classroom teachers and interventionists work with students to write interim benchmark goals. We also engage students in writing these short-term goals with reflection process. So essentially the plan, do, check, and adjust cycle. And as adults, we model the processes for students through our whole school wildly important goals, or WIGs, and our classroom WIGs, and as well as our personal WIGs. Our priority focus areas for 2019-2020 are listed here. Instructional feedback and coaching has been a very big part of our work this year. I'm working very closely with Jill from Cognia to enhance my instructional and coaching feedback cycle. And then in English language arts and math, we're continuing our strong focus on vocabulary, as well as unpacking prompts so that students know exactly what they're answering in the questions. In literacy, we're working on writing specifically, continuing our work in writing, specifically around literary text. We're also helping students learn to type, so there's specific times throughout our day, from level 1 all the way through level 5 and 6. We're typing as part of our day. And in math, we're working on computational automaticity, as well as expressing reasoning and modeling and application. In both content areas, we're working with district coaches, and they are in our buildings quite a bit, and it's been a really positive relationship. And one thing I'm very, very proud of at our school is we really do a lot to create a connected and caring community. We've built a very special place to work and to learn. It doesn't feel like work most of the time. We strive to create a community of connectedness in everything that we do, and Harris Park is warm, inviting, and a happy place for students and staff. And each one of our staff members is vital to the success of each one of our students. We truly are one team with a unified purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Board questions, comments? I have a couple. It's been a theme with almost every presentation that we've heard from all of our schools, and we asked this question as it relates because math scores are dipping.
Mm-hmm.
What work have you done? What are you guys seeing as the reasons why, and what are we doing to elevate?
So historically, our math data has actually been very strong,
Right.
especially in growth. And I actually sat down with Jeff Raposa, who's now a district coach, and we looked through individually each one of our fifth grade students' scores from the previous year to this year, and not just the overall score, but each of the component parts of the score. And what we found is that our fifth graders specifically had a dip in their computation and calculation. So that just leaves us with more questions than answers at the moment. But we're continuing our work to build automaticity so students don't have to think about the calculation when they're answering questions. They can get into the question. And we're doing a lot of work with Art Drotar and TJ Sasma to break down questions and to earn one more point. So get something on there. Let's unpack the question and figure out what we can figure out from it and go from there. So
you're saying you found that dip in the fifth grade math?
Mm-hmm. But we're not sure why, because the students who dipped, they can calculate.
Yeah, because
So
we saw that in each one of the schools. We saw that fifth grade drop. So
Pattern.
the pattern.
and I'm not sure because it's the major content section, which is general calculation, which that group of students was particularly strong in. So I'm not sure why there was a drop in that particular score. We're wondering about what they were looking for.
Can you refresh my memory? You went through it in the slide, and I just started writing down questions, so I didn't hear everything that
It's
you
okay.
said. But it had to do, I believe you surveyed the community, the parents.
We do survey our parents.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that and
Mm-hmm.
what made you do that? And
Yep, so if you want to pull up slide 4. Okay. So these are the 4, you're so fast, thank you. These are the 4 questions that we ask them. I actually ask it as part of our, it's a sheet of paper that has how they're going to support their children and their future goals and aspirations. And so we get a very high percentage rate of these returned to us because we're asking them about their children too. And these are just 4 questions that are important to us as a school. You know, are parents feeling communicated with? Does their child feel individually acknowledged for their accomplishments? Do they feel safe at school? And are they feeling successful and happy? So we ask those questions and get that feedback, and any parent that marks I disagree, I make a personal phone call to them and find out what's going on and see how I can help.
what's the participation rate for that? The most parents?
This year was 81%.
Not bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
Are other schools doing that? Do we know?
I don't believe, that's one that I do separately. We survey so
Right. No, we survey all the time. so-
times that,
Survey to
I just-
death. Jenny, you
it's
want to
like-
come to the microphone and
Yeah.
talk about our surveying?
and I almost dropped this one off of the surveys because of how much we survey them. I just left it
Right.
in there because I've done it every year for
Thought it
5
was a good
years.
little
So it's,
personal, unique touch. That's
yes.
But I think it's important for the board to know what we do survey.
Right.
So each school does have the choice to administer additional surveys. This year, knowing how much we survey our parents, our students, and our staff, 3 different departments got together and worked to create one kind of overarching, because we also do some surveys for some outside groups like ACYI. With some of our grants, we have some requirements to do some surveying, so we created kind of one all-encompassing survey that we administered to all parents, students, and staff back in September. All of our principals are going through a process digging into that data. We started last month. They'll continue over the next couple weeks. A bunch of them are on Friday, I know. And then this year, we're going to work with some of those external partners like ACYI and come up with what's our Westminster survey. Here are the things that we as a system value and the data that we want to gather year over year, which will also play into one of those components that you just approved around highly reliable schools. There are requirements to achieve HRS level 1. This is data that we have to track and set goals around, those lagging indicators. So those are things we're trying to get better about because we know we've kind of over-surveyed our constituents, and we want to try and narrow that down. But schools, some of them still give some small, quick ones because they have the ability to get those parents in and tie it to certain things.
People love surveys. What are you talking about? Especially BuzzFeed surveys, they're fun.
Don't egg Jenny on. She loves surveys.
We also do one for the Leader and Me at the end of the year for our grant to cover that. So we do a lot of surveys at our school.
I do love your outreach to San Marino. I used to
We
work
love
there
it
when I
too.
was 13. But I love all the photos and just seeing them come in and participate. That's great community engagement. So
Thank you. Yeah, so far we're going over there to sing next Thursday, I believe, and they're coming over tomorrow for their annual gift giving, and we've written a bunch of holiday cards for them.
Great. Any other questions or comments?
On the stakeholder perception results, 7% of parents responded disagree or strongly disagree to, I understand my child's level and scoring in CBS. That is good, right? That's
Statistically significant.
That's high. So what do you do?
So yes, so 7% of our parents said, in case anybody didn't hear, said that they disagreed or strongly disagreed to understanding their child's level and scoring in CBS. And so we've already started doing a lot of conversation with parents around Empower, what scores mean. I've had a lot of conversations with our families this year because we're ensuring accuracy of those scores. And so the progress on Empower might seem a little or feel a little slower to some of them right now. So I'm doing a lot of conversation with parents around that. We have a lot of avenues of access to parents through our title nights, through our PASS program, through our community education specialist and the groups that she brings in, as well as PTA. And then every chance I can get, and I'm in front of parents, I'm talking about Empower.
That's great. That's great.
Because you guys just had a PASS program, so
Yes.
really talk about those things.
Yes. It's also part of our student-led conferences, and so our students read about their age grade as well as their learning levels and their scores on assessments and what those mean. They do pretty well with teacher support.
All right, with no other comments, thank you for your time and
Thank
job
you.
well done.
Appreciate it.
One comment I would like to make, you're right, whoever brought it up, Max, I think it was you. We have detected a pattern about 5th grade math in the last round of tests. Not sure what that is yet, are we, Jenny?
We're not. Schools have dug into it. Each one sees a little bit different patterns. We do know, just in general, there was a strong demand that we needed a stronger program better aligned to the Common Core standards, which are our standards, and aligned to the way the tests are asking kids to think. And so actually starting January 6th, through your approval, we'll be starting that rollout of our new math curriculum, which we hope will address some of those gaps.
Jenny, do we see that? Do we see it throughout the metro area, or is it just specifically just our 5th grades? I'm trying to wonder if it's the test itself or if it's something we're not aligning with. Or
They've looked at some of those pieces just as they looked at the SAT, and they tell us it's not the test.
Either way, we got to elevate it anyways.
Yeah.
But,
And the they is CDE, right?
Yes. Well, and even College Board has said it's not the test.
yeah.
all right. Well, next up, we have John E. Flynn, a Marzano Academy. Jenny,
All right.
please introduce the next person.
Now we will hear from Dr. Brian Cassina, principal of John E. Flynn, a Marzano Academy. This is Dr. Cassina's 6th year with Westminster Public Schools. During the 2017-18 school year, Dr. Cassina led the transition of Flynn Elementary School to the John E. Flynn, a Marzano Academy, which officially opened in August 2018. Tonight, he will share the latest information about his school's attainment of highly reliable school certification, as well as the school's achievement story. Dr. Cassina?
And last year, this is actually my correction, 7th year in the school district. So last year, Oliver said it was my 5th when it was my 6th. So I'm just for the record.
Just want to make sure you can count.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. It's my pleasure to represent Flynn and Marzano Academy here tonight. And although I'm the one standing here at the lectern, I'd be remiss not to mention the wonderful faculty and staff Foster for just a second. You guys are truly incredible. As I mentioned last year's board presentation, Flynn Marzano Academy, it's a lot about doing extra for extraordinary. And these teachers are asked to do more every day than almost any teacher in the country. They walk in the door with a smile, always have a positive attitude. Problem arises, they're always focused on solutions. And a lot of my heart. Great group of people. Folks are the ones that do the hard yet amazing work with our students. I'm honored. Innovation School Act has many stated goals,
a few of which are highlighted here. As an instructional laboratory school for WPS and the Marzano Academy's flagship school, we believe everything we do epitomizes the intentional, diverse approach to learning. As this board already knows, being trailblazers on anything, let alone systems-level change, is never easy. When there is no roadmap, often we make wrong turns or have to backtrack previous steps taken. As the first academy in the country, we too have experienced similar trailblazer realities. However, we are beginning to gain momentum and are excited about the future possibilities our work today can bring to WPS and public education as a whole tomorrow. Here's a list of the Marzano Academy's school-level indicators. Even though it oftentimes feels like we've been working towards these for years, in actuality, we're only in our second year. Of the school-level indicators you see here, those in black text are already in place district-wide, while those in red text are unique to Flynn in their current iterations. The green check marks indicate full-scale adoption, while yellow indicate partial. Each adoption process includes the training of staff, designing and developing instructional tools, refining these tools after implementation, determining best practices, monitoring these practices across all classrooms, and sharing these efforts with district leaders for further refinement. It's a lot for sure, but as the instructional laboratory for the school district, everything we do, create, and try is with the intention of rolling system-wide. These efforts have already led to other schools adopting the cognitive and metacognitive skills, inspiration, cumulative review and thinking frames, as well as the instructional model. The complexity of each indicator is immense and would require an individual study session for each to truly cover, which I am not advocating for. Sorry, Christine. However, I would like to highlight the efforts underway on a few indicators to give you an idea of how we're tackling this work. In September, every student in the school signed their name to a banner. This signature was their official commitment to Rachel's challenge, or an agreement to practice kindness toward one another. Each individual act of kindness is represented by a chain link that students make for one another and hang in the hallways. Last year, we had over 7,500 links. To put another way, that is 7,500 individual acts of kindness recognized from one student to another. That is incredible. These kindness chains indicate our belief that learning can only happen when every student feels not just a part of, but esteem within their community. And that's an important distinction to make. We believe that the ultimate learning experience culminates with a system or a self-actualized learner. When a student knows their abilities, believes in their potential, and is inspired to apply their learning in ways that benefits their larger community, the educational experience becomes very robust. Rachel's Challenge helps us achieve this by promoting kindness, building students' esteem, and creating an inspirational environment for every learner to become self-actualized. This year, we set a goal of 10,000 links, and I'm happy to report that 4 months into school, we are well on our way to achieving that. And speaking of community, for the last 19 years, Ms. Cindy Qualls, our esteemed librarian, has organized Flynn's annual Veterans Day celebration. This event was initially inspired by the events of September 11th, 2001. However, over the past 19 years has evolved to include not just the celebration of our veterans, but also the importance of giving back. This theme fits perfectly with our goal of developing self-actualized learners, the importance of giving back. An example of this is the partnership Flynn's Veterans Day celebration has with Adolphson and Peterson Construction. The past several years, AMP has provided volunteer services to any veteran in our community that is in need. Raking leaves, handyman fixes around the house, or the moving of an old appliance are all examples of how AMP Construction can provide to our community and serve as examples to our students about what giving back truly looks like. Changing gears for a minute, I'd like to quickly highlight some achievement data. Here's a listing of the previous 3 years of school performance framework ratings for Flynn. As you can see, we have consistently earned an improvement rating with our actual performance framework score falling within 3 points from year to year. Considering how many new initiatives Flynn took on last year, to not experience a large initial dip in student performance was a relief. With this said, we are not satisfied with an improvement rating, nor do we believe Flynn is deserving of such a rating moving forward. We believe the continued implementation of our school's innovation plan will help us move out of the improvement category, and into the performance category once and for all. And speaking of moving into performance, here are our CMAS achievement and growth goals that will do just that. On the top, you will see our 2019 scale scores for ELA and math, and on the bottom, you will see our goals for this upcoming year. It is true that realizing a 12-point jump in mean scale scores for both literacy and math and similar increases in growth are tall orders, but we believe they are well within the realm of possible. They are stretch goals for sure, but if there's ever been a school to achieve mighty goals, it is Flynn this year. Here are Flynn's CMAS growth scores for the previous 3 years. First, I'd like to highlight some good growth in our English language learners in both literacy and math. These students performed above their peers last year in both subject contents, which also correlated to increases in their achievement data too. At the same time, we experienced a drop in math growth from 2018. Although not terrible, a 42.5 is nowhere acceptable and is something we are analyzing and attempting to mitigate this year. Here's a look at our beginning of year Scantron scaled scores across literacy and math. As you can see, we are already outperforming last year's beginning of year results in every grade except 5th grade literacy. 6th grade has NA because we didn't have 6th grade last year, and we are anxiously anticipating the results of our middle of year Scantron testing, which started. With this said, as important as CMAS and Scantron data are, educating young minds is a complicated thing, and there's definitely more than one way to measure success. As a board, you recently adopted a resolution concerning high reliability schools, or the HRS certification. I'm proud to report that Flynn is helping pave the way for all schools in WPS to achieve this goal. The High Reliability Schools framework has 5 levels, of which schools must move chronologically through. We worked hard last year and earned our Level 1 certification in December and our Level 2 certification in June. Our goal is to become the first Level 5 high reliability school in the nation, and much like our very own Mr. Seth Abbott, who last year became the first fully certified high reliability teacher in the country, we expect to do the same. Whether speaking about high reliability teacher or school, the process is not an easy one. It requires the school to identify the systems and practices in place to achieve its stated goals, while also identifying the measures it will use to determine the efficacy of these efforts. The HRS certification requires a school to be honest with itself, and from personal experience, I can say it forced me to pull back the curtain on my own leadership to determine if what I believed was right was actually working. This self-analysis identified areas of strength as well as some areas of needed improvement. When approached with integrity, the HRS process forces schools to embrace continuous improvement. And speaking of, I'd like to share the work we are currently undertaking to achieve HRS Level 3. This year, we are conducting a deep dive into our 2019 CMAS data. Here's an example of how Flynn's 5th graders performed in math across the different standards in relation to both district and state averages. Flynn is represented in orange, district in yellow, and state in blue. You will notice that we were under district and state average here, yet over here. The first step to our process is to question why. Why did we not perform well on one standard, but then perform well on another? Can we identify specific instructional practices used for one versus the other? And if so, can we leverage those practices across all instruction? In addition to this, we also set goals for future performance on each standard we are currently not performing on. Based on conversations we've had this semester, a few common trends have been identified. First, our assessments have not always aligned to the rigors of grade level proficiency, which can lead to false demonstrations or beliefs of student competency. Second, we often found those standards we did not perform well on were taught earlier in the school year, and correspondingly, those standards we performed well on were taught closer to the assessment date. This makes sense. It's understandable that kids might forget content learned in October for an April exam date. Which leads us to the final school level indicator we'll highlight tonight of cumulative review and thinking frames. Generally speaking, cumulative review is the weekly continual review of content previously taught in proficiency scales with specific ways for teachers and students to engage in this review process. This helps keep content fresh all year. In addition, the thinking frames helps identify high-frequency assessment items and, more importantly, provide a roadmap for teaching students how to cognitively process these questions. When combined with the cumulative review process, we anticipate these efforts will help our kids learn smarter instead of just working harder. From all the Flynn Falcons, thank you for providing us the time to tell you about our school tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Brian, thank you. Board, questions, comments?
Veronica, can you go back to the one slide where the shows the results? Can I get a cheeseburger, please?
Which slide do you want to see?
The one where you were comparing your growth from nope, the big scale one.
The one that, yeah,
Keep going back.
next to the last one.
Hold the phone right there.
Oh,
So I'm looking at non-English learners, math, and I can't see the non-English language arts because of the little green arrows there. Oh, I see it. Thank you. 44. Thank you. I don't have a question regarding that. I just wanted to see it. Second, I do have a question regarding your students. What, you're about 260 students?
290, including pre-K.
How many of those students, what percent or guesstimate, come from outside of your normal boundary?
K-5, we have 13, and then we have another 5 from pre-K this year as well, so 18 total.
Would go to your school because it's the neighborhood school.
That's correct. When we became an innovation school, we grandfathered in all of our existing students, and so a majority of our students have and always have been Flynn students.
On the slide before, you had the science, I think it was the slide before where they have the science scores. Yeah. That one, yes. So can you tell me a little bit about why the science score is lower? Or not present, yeah, on the NAs?
Well, the science is only tested in 5th grade at the elementary level, so we can't calculate growth. And it's also not, so ELA and math are on a scale for the state of 650 to 850, with 750 being grade level. Science is on a different scale. It would be easier if they kept it on the same scale, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Another issue, right?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, thank you.
Can you go back to the slide that lists all the things that you're doing within the academy, where you had some highlighted font in red, black?
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. All right, number 4, cognitive and metacognitive skills. I ask this, I think, every time you present or I've talked to you. Remind me what that is again on the metacognitive skills.
Sure, I'd love to. Because it's actually what I believe is where all public education should be focusing its efforts. So cognitive and metacognitive skills is direct instruction on thinking processes and then thinking about your thinking is kind of an easy way to look at it. So an example of a metacognitive skill would be a growth mindset. So teaching kids how to persevere, how to believe that they can achieve and not have a closed mindset like, I'm not a good math student. A growth mindset would say, I'm just not a good math student yet. And so at the academy, we have actual proficiency scales with score 3, score 2 targets that we then teach kids direct instruction on. Oftentimes these are executive functioning skills, working with teams, resisting impulsivity, persevering through when an answer is not present. So these are all examples of things, and I believe one of the challenges we experience with accountability in public education today is we're still focused on content as an important measure of a school's academic success. So I'll give you an example to go back to your science score for a second. 5th grade science, a large part of it is human anatomy. So if our kids know that the thigh bone is the femur bone, they're going to score well on that state test. When we get out into the real world, I don't know too many professions that require you to know that. And if you do need to know it, you pull out your cell phone and you look it up because we have infinite access to information. So the fact that we are still focused on content-based standards is a problem, especially when you look at what is it that adults need to do to be successful in life. They need to know how to persevere through challenges. They need to know how to resist impulsivity. They have to believe in themselves. These are all skill sets that we know with direct instruction can be taught, and more importantly, can be learned. But when we are teaching content standards, the thigh bone is the femur bone, we oftentimes are missing some of the most critical skills that adults need to have to be successful. So at the Academy, the cognitive and metacognitive skills is an attempt to try to say, this is important. And it's not just, we're not just saying it's important, we're actually going to write proficiency scales to it, we're going to direct instruct on it, and we're going to record after we assess.
And then can you highlight some of your personal projects?
So the personal projects is Spring 20, is because we have not truly implemented that across the system yet. The big thing with the projects is it's not necessarily the project itself that's important. I would never say that to a child who's putting their heart and soul into a project, right? But when you really look at what is the personal projects about, it's the process of being able to set a goal, then determine what are the best avenues for me to achieve that goal. So that process could be, I'm making this up now, I want to become the best basketball player there is, which is not probably an uncommon goal for a lot of our kids. So one of the things we then want to have kids start to do is really dissect what does it require you to become an NBA star. If you're a 5th grader right now and you want to become an NBA star at age 20, what do you need to do between now and then to achieve that goal? So part of that personal project is identify who are your heroes, maybe LeBron James, and what can you look at what he does to try to mimic that or to model that. But then also, who are your role models? And the big difference between a hero and a role model, and this is built into the personal projects, is a role model is somebody that you know that exhibits the exact type of skills or knowledge that you need to acquire to be able to achieve your goal or achieve your project. So you identify your hero, but then you also identify a role model. And then you say, oh, my role model is really great at being able to, do whatever, right? And so then you say, okay, what can I do today to achieve what my role model is already doing? And then how will this help me become an NBA star? So the personal projects is more about the process than the end result of the project itself. One thing that we're trying to do as we design out these projects is have them be tied to a community aspect as well. That self-actualized learner, when you look, it comes from Maslow, but if you actually look beyond self-actualized, self-transcendence is actually the ultimate level of being. And when you become self-actualized and then you take all of those potentials, those abilities and belief in yourself and you apply it towards something that is greater than self, then you're actually transcending yourself and giving back in a different way. So our hope, and I mentioned self-actualized in my remarks today, our real goal, and I hope that we can achieve this through the personal projects, is actually creating a self-transcendent learner that's one step above the self-actualized.
Veronica, if we could just make a note that one thing, because we talked about this is our lab school. And I know we'll be taking practices of things learned and moving it into other classrooms and other schools. Maybe sometime in the spring, depending on your schedule and if you're ready, and Ms. Gatto's, that maybe we have that conversation of how we're implementing what you're learning into some of the other schools. Because I know that was part of the board's investment of like, all right, if we're going to do this, we want to see this. And maybe it's not ready by then, but I just. Oh,
Yeah.
great.
This morning, actually, we invited Dr. Marzano here, and many of the leaders in the room tonight were actually present with all of our school-based and district coaches. And item number 10 up there, the cumulative review and thinking frames, all of those individuals were trained on that today. So these things are, as we figure out, this is an important piece that we believe is going to have an impact for kids. We're trying to roll those out sooner than later. And our principals are pushing us. We want that now. So trying some things, Brian and his staff, Faye has done some amazing, shared some amazing tools this morning, taking Bob's work even further, Dr. Marzano's work even further, and those are being shared out all throughout the year.
That's awesome. And yeah, let's have that conversation a little bit more in depth. I have other questions, but not for this time.
It's a lot.
No, it is, and I understand all the work you guys are doing. I appreciate it. And last thing I have to say, one of my neighbors, their children goes to Flint, and they speak very highly of all of you. And I always ask them about you. Like, how's the principal? Is he mean? And they never say mean. You always receive a lot of compliments from the two boys. Yeah. So
I
just
feel
so
like
that you
I
know.
need to come to Brian's defense here. No, just joking. No, actually, this week I received an email from a community volunteer. Person has no children in the school district at this time. The kids are grown. And in fact, I think I shared it with you, Brian, together. And she said, I just wanted to tell you what I observed during the recent Moms and Muffins event, which is one of the events there. She said, it would have been so easy for Dr. Cassina to go to the front of the room and speak on the microphone to the group. But instead, I observed him, and he met with every single parent and talked to every single child one-on-one in a personalized way, and I just thought that was awesome. So, that probably made Brian's whole week when I told him that, I'm guessing.
It did, and she sent that email to me, and I told Dr. Swanson I sent it to my parents.
Love it. Any other questions or comments?
I just had one. You have so many great programs going on at Flynn. What do you do for after-school programs?
Great question. So that was part of the big push that we had with our rollout of the academy last year. So we have a variety of different programs, both sports related as well as academic. So Mad Science, we're getting Lego League started up, and then we've had after school tutoring. We've also we're participating in the middle school sports program that the rest of the school district has as well. In addition to that, we also have Taekwondo and lacrosse, and then golf as well. And so some additional ways. And the Taekwondo is actually it's something that Dr. Marzano really wanted to have be a part of the academy model. He's a double black belt in Taekwondo, amongst a lot of other things about him that's really surprising. But really the thing with Taekwondo is it's about discipline, right? And really starting to think about control and discipline. And so that's why we have Taekwondo every Tuesday and Thursday. And we actually partnered with a local, I don't know if you call it a gym or, Carrie, what do we call it? A dojo, a local Westminster dojo who he's been fantastic, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And then at the end of the year, the kids all get to break a board with their hands. And you should have seen this little first grader who broke it, and she was so surprised that she's like, it was incredible. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to move on to business items. 9.1 Personnel Matters with Mr. Kirkladay.
Mr. President, members of the board, and Dr. Swanson, I've prepared for you a personnel report containing items 1.0, 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0 for your consideration and approval.
Thank you. Board?
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education approve personnel matters as presented on items 1.0, 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any comments? With none, Veronica, pull the board.
Mr. Troncho,
Yes?
Mr. Davidek,
Aye.
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Mr. Math,
Aye.
Mr. McCoy.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item 9.2, mill levy rate certification.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Swanson. Each year, by law, the district must certify a mill levy rate by December 15th each year to the Adams County Commissioner's Office. To be in compliance with the state statutes and regulations, we have listed for you the calculations for this year with 2 previous years. Our collections will be $56,155,093 and $93. Which will be for the School Finance Act, voter-approved mill levy overrides, and the bond repayment from 2008 bond. It is recommended by administration that the Board of Education approve the general fund and bond redemption mill levy as presented.
Thank you. Board?
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education approve the general fund and bond redemption fund mill levy as presented. The mill levy is for the property taxes payable in 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Board, any comments or questions? With none, Veronica, please pull the board.
Mr. Troncho,
Yes?
Mr. Davidek,
Aye.
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Mr. Math,
Aye.
Mr. McCoy.
Aye. Thank you. Board, the next item I will be bringing to the table is the affirmation of approval for property sale. The Board of Education has determined the property located on 8,000 Pecos Street is no longer needed for any educational purpose. I move the board affirm its approval of the sale of said property.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Comments? I would just to provide some information, this has been Holly, I'm trying to think of how long we've been talking about this allotment of land over there. And this is the COP property, so some of you know this as the Igloo Building.
I will say the first discussion I had with this board on COP property was my first meeting with this board over 4 years ago.
Okay. So this has been an ongoing conversation, and so this is the board signaling that we are we'll be selling that land, and I know there's been a for sale sign on that for quite a while. So with that, Veronica, please pull the board.
Mr. Troncho,
Yes.
Mr. Davidek,
Aye.
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Mr. Math,
Aye.
Mr. McCoy.
Aye. All right, moving on to the next one, which I am also bringing to the table. It's the Board of Education operating agreements. I move that the Board of Education reaffirm its commitment to use the Board of Education operating agreements as its norm, designed to promote positive communication and sustainability of a high-performing Board of Education.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Comments? I have one. Just to kind of highlight, so over a number of years, the board has come to the table to set norms and rules that help govern us. And a lot of it is one of the things that you will see, and it's the one that resonates the most with me, is we have a lot of community members who will come up and interact with us individually. And we do our best and to have our due diligence of where we let the other board members know of conversations and things that have happened that are happening in the community. So one, that we're not caught off guard. That's an expectation we set as board members, but it's also one that we set with administration. And really it's to ensure that we are professional also in our communication and that we feel that and then we create rules and how to communicate with one another. I will tell you this operating agreement has been adopted by other school districts. We've sent it on, as well as I will tell you the CASB board has looked at this as a tool for best practices. So anything else to add? Great. With that, Veronica, please pull the board.
Mr. Troncho, Mr. Davidek,
Aye.
Ms. Martinez,
Aye.
Mr. Math,
Aye.
Mr. McCoy.
Aye. All right, the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors of Westminster Public School, a Cognia accredited organization, will be Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. At 5 p.m., the regular meeting will be held in the lecture hall of Westminster High School. Notices of meetings are posted on board docs 24 hours before each business meeting. Holly, I do have one quick question. Can we adjourn and then go into exec session, or do we need to go into exec session? Okay, so I just want to let you know that next meeting notification. Don't worry, exec session, you all can leave if you need to. Well, you have to, no. But I'd need a motion from the board for exec session.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education go into executive session for the purpose of conferences with an attorney for the purposes
You
of
could just wait,
receiving.
excuse me, before we, so we can read this and hear it and get it into record, and then we can disperse. My apologies. Sorry, George.
No worries. For purposes of conferences with an attorney for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions as authorized by CRS 246402-4B. Those present at the executive session shall be members of the Board of Education, Dr. Pamela Swanson and Ms. Holly Ortiz.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any comments? With none, Veronica, please pull the board.
Mr. Chancho?
Yes.
Mr. Davidek?
Aye.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Math?
Aye.
Mr. McCoy?
Aye. Thank you.
And
We're
just
gonna-
so everybody know, we're 3 minutes past 6:30, so it's like the 5 o'clock start time.
Board, before we get into exec, let's take a 5-10 minute break for restrooms. Thank you.
Good meeting.